everyone, I'm Miss Lydia from the Boston Library. Thank you so much for joining me for today's craft project. Today we are going to be making a decorative wall hanging. So this is an item that you can either hang on your wall or in front of a window. We're going to be using a stick, a piece of ribbon, twine, rope, or leather to make the hanger, and then lots of decorative beads. So I have a mixture of plastic and glass and metal beads here. To make this project a little easier, I'm using an egg carton to sort out the different colors of beads that I'm going to be using because I want to keep them on a strand with the same color. So this is just a way to organize the beads. It makes the project go a little bit faster once you actually start it so that you're not searching through your beads to try to find the right color for the next part of the project. You're also going to need some string or fishing line. It kind of depends on what you have on hand. The fishing line is going to be a little bit stronger, but you want something that you can string your beads on. You could also use wire if you have that, and some scissors. Now the size of your branch is dependent on kind of how big you want this project to be. So I chose a fairly large branch. I have a lot of beads and I wanted it to be a big scale project. You can go much, much smaller than this. You could also use a piece of wood or a piece of driftwood too, depending on the look that you want to go for. So I have my ribbon. I've tied it on one side with a knot, and then it's going to be a very basic hanging system. So we're just going to take it over to the other side and tie a loop on that side as well. And make sure that it's about the same distance. And I'm going to double knot that so that it's nice and secure. And then it's going to hang like that. Now the nice thing about this project is that it is very freeform. So you can base the length of your ribbon, your hanger, and everything about it can just be based on what you want it to look like. So now with that part done, I'm probably going to trim up my edges just using a little V cut so that my ribbon doesn't fray, and then it'll just look a little bit more decorative there too. So I'm going to do that on both sides. You could also paint your stick if you wanted to. Didn't get that one cut all the way through. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to decide what order I want my colors in. So I don't have on hand enough beads to do every color of the rainbow. I actually had kind of just a mixture of yellow and orange that I'm going to do. But I did have some really pretty clear and white beads and some very interesting black beads as well. So I'm going to put those on either end and then put my rainbow in the middle. You can also vary the length of the strands. You can go straight across if you want. Generally it's better to go towards a V, so you want your longest strand in the middle. So what I'm actually going to do is figure out what my middle strand is going to be, create that one based on the number of beads that I have, and then I will reduce beads going out so that I get that V shape up that I want to have once I'm done hanging this. So I'm going to take a piece of string, and I'm not going to cut it just yet because I'm not sure what my length is going to be. So I'm going to try to figure out, I'm going to start, see if I go into the middle, that means my middle is going to be green. So I'm just going to take my string and start adding beads. And I'm going to go through each color and do the same thing. So it takes a little bit of time. If you wanted to, you could put a needle on if it'll fit through your beads. Like I said, I'm using a mixture of glass and plastic. I just wanted them to be anything that's going to kind of sparkle in the sun. So the plastic ones, obviously those are a lot easier to string. You could use much thicker string if you wanted to, but because I'm using those glass beads, I have to use fairly thin string. And you can string them in a totally random order. If you have an idea, like I had 3 teardrop shaped beads that I want to use on the end of my middle 3 strands. So those I've already separated those out. I'm going to add those on at the end before I tie this strand off. And that way I know that that one's going to be my last bead. Beyond that, I don't have any plans as far as how this is going to line up. So we'll just keep going with that strand. I've used up all of my green beads and I've gotten a strand about this length. Then I tied the one that I'd shown you, the teardropped one, at the end, tied that off. I didn't tie off the top because I'm going to be tying that right to my stick. So I'm going to approximate the middle of this, about just the other side of that knot, and that's where I'm going to tie this strand. Because I'm just using regular string, I'm going to go over that a couple of times and wrap it around, just to give it a little bit of extra strength. You want to get your beads up fairly close so that there's not much space then. And sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling. You need to get it so that it's not weighing down. So now that that's done, you can see about the length of that one. And from there, I'm going to just continue stringing the rest of my beads. And like I said, I'm going to make those strands a little bit shorter, so I'm going to go up, taper it in a V shape towards either end. It took a little while, but here's the finished product. A couple of tips that I learned along the way would be to make sure that you double string your bottom bead. So whatever bead you're putting on the bottom, make sure you run the string through it a couple of times. I did have one of the strands break on me. Of course, it was the blue one that went all over the blue carpet, so that was fun to find all those beads and restring it. I also did loop them a few times around the top and really carefully knotted those spots as well, so that that will hold strong. Now this could be hung outside. I wouldn't recommend doing that if you've used just regular sewing thread, but if you have used the fishing line or a wire, it should hold up okay outside. It does catch the light really nicely, and you can, again, make it any size that you like, any colors that you like. Here's a look at the final product. If you have any questions, comment below and I will answer them, and we'll see you next week for another craft project.